Thank you. My first encounter with the issue of capital punishment happened when I was in 8th grade. I was in a Catholic school, and Sister Rose of the Cross, who was our classroom teacher, had a class debate about capital punishment. And I was put on the panel that was supposed to defend the idea. And I recall in those days doing everything that I could to try to learn something about it, and I ended up quoting everybody from Moses to J. Edgar Hoover to try to somehow convey the importance of the death penalty. But it began a journey of reflection for me, a journey that has continued in my role as a pastor and as a teacher. A number of years ago, I was a pastor in a small community some miles south of San Antonio. And in 1998, there were a couple of capital crimes that had been committed there. And the trials were going on. It happened to be that the parish I was assigned to was also the county seat. And so in my parish, I had the prosecuting district attorney. I had people who were impaneled in the jury. I had congregants who were related to the victims of the crimes. And I also had family members of those accused and eventually convicted. In 1997, the bishops of Texas had raised a very important question about the death penalty and its imposition here in the state of Texas. The bishops expressed their concern about two things. One, of course, were those who were wrongfully accused, and that always is a very serious question in relation to the death penalty. But they also questioned the lack of equal application because of the fact that the poor and minorities were so heavily weighted in the application of the death penalty. This became a very serious concern. It seemed that if you had enough money, you could buy enough justice, so to speak. And so the bishops expressed this strong concern. So in that spring of that year, there was a letter that was issued by Archbishop Flores that was to be read in our churches. And I recall having to read that letter to my congregation on a Sunday, knowing full well all of the people who were there. And I can tell you as a pastor that in a very sincere way, my heart went out to all of them. Because the prosecutor believed deep in his heart that he was doing the right thing. The families of the victims were looking for some kind of justice. And the families of the accused were frozen in fear, almost in terror. I had to reflect as a pastor, how can I approach all of these people? How can I be a shepherd of souls to each one of them? And as I looked at the issue of the death penalty, I realized that there are several very important influences in my journey. One has been the thought of Pope John Paul II. The Catholic tradition has historically allowed for the use of a death penalty in extreme circumstances as a way of trying to protect society from any further harm or further ill that could be done. But John Paul II raised his voice in relation to this and said, in the contemporary world, are there such extreme circumstances especially in our developed societies, that could allow us to continue its use? By the time of the publication of the new Catechism of the Catholic Church, the Church stated, however, non-lethal means are sufficient to defend and protect people's safety from the aggressor, and authority will limit itself to such means. I was deeply influenced by the reflections of the bishops of Texas, particularly with regard to the question of the unequal application of the law. I have also been very deeply influenced by a theologian named Miroslav Volf, who teaches at Yale Divinity School, who asks us the question, how can we move in our own lives from exclusion to embrace? This is a man who lived in Sarajevo during the ethnic cleansing wars in that part of the world. How can we move from violence to hope? My own journey, my own reflection, has led me, in the perspective of my faith, to move beyond the idea of justice as retribution to justice as something which must repair, justice as something which must restore. I cannot claim that I hold the answers or that I know the final statements, but I do know where my mind and my heart and my spirit are leading me. And that is to a place of nonviolence, to a place where the death penalty will not be needed to protect our society. Thank you.